Every time I see an advertisement for a cruise, it's obvious. The cruise line wants me to book a balcony cabin. But is this really worth $900 more than this? When everything else on the cruise is exactly the same? I'm about to show you why cruise lines know it's not worth it. After decades of cruising, I will never book a balcony cabin again, except for one reason. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you money-saving hacks, fresh cruise advice, and secret strategies the cruise lines don't advertise. Let's get started. I know many cruisers who swear they'll only ever book a balcony cabin, and I get a lot of comments from people saying the same thing. It's that dream of sitting out on that balcony, relaxing with a cup of coffee or a book, and just watching the ocean go by. But if you book a balcony outright, you're playing right into the cruise line's hands. I'm going to tell you how to get around that. I've stayed in many balcony cabins over the years, and they can be very nice rooms. But as you can see here by these examples, if you book the balcony cabin up front, you're going to pay on average about $900 or more per stateroom just to have that balcony. Nothing else is different between the balcony and the interior rooms. They're about the same size, and every other amenity on the cruise ship applies to both types of cabins. And the cruise lines know that these balcony cabins are overpriced because on many sailings, when the cruise ship is not fully booked, which happens a lot, cruise lines will offer people who booked interior cabins an upgrade into the balcony, sometimes for as little as $300 or $400. So while it's not guaranteed, if you book an interior cabin and get the option to upgrade to a balcony, you can actually score that balcony cabin for half price or less. Even at a discount, you need to consider if that balcony cabin is really worth it. On my last cruise, I booked an interior cabin, and I ended up with an interior cabin. But I was cruising with a friend who booked the dream. He wanted a balcony cabin, and that's what he got. But we spent so much time out and about the ship and off the ship at ports of call that he rarely spent much time in that balcony room at all. In fact, I know from his wife that the only time he spent really in that balcony was sleeping or taking a nap. In fact, on that very same cruise, outside of sleeping, I don't think I spent more than 2 hours in my room. So you really need to take a look at the time you're going to spend there. And if you're on a cruise for less than a week, you're probably not going to be on there at all because there's just too much to do and explore, and the days go by so fast. So if the most amount of time you're going to spend in your cabin is actually sleeping, which one is better? If you want the best sleep of your life, an interior cabin is the way to go. It gets so dark in there that you can't even see your hand in front of your face. Now, I know that matters a lot for some people. For me, I'm a deep sleeper. I can fall asleep in the middle of the pool deck with the sun beating down on me. But my wife, she needs it dark. She needs it quiet, no distractions, and those interior cabins work wonders for her. She'll sleep until 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning in there some days when she's just tired and relaxing. But in a balcony cabin, it's harder to do if you're a light sleeper. Because when that sun starts coming up, and the way cruise lines change the clocks depending on your itinerary, that sun might be coming up at 6 a.m. And even though there's blackout curtains along those balcony doors, they don't completely darken out the light. Not to mention, if you're the person that wants to take a nap in the middle of the day, the interior cabin, you'll be right at home. The balcony cabin, you might struggle a little bit more. And an interior cabin will not only help you sleep, it will solve one of the biggest problems at sea. Every time I go on a cruise, I see people wearing those patches behind their ears. And sometimes I'll go up to people and ask them what type of cabin they booked and where, to find out if that helps with their motion sickness or seasickness. And over 70% of the time, people tell me that they book an interior cabin because it improves the situation for them versus a balcony cabin. Now for me, I don't have that issue, but I know a lot of people do. And the experts say that booking an interior cabin in the middle of the ship on lower decks or mid-level decks will give you the best chance of avoiding seasickness or motion sickness, or at least lessening the effect that it has on you. And it kind of makes sense, because the closer you are to the middle center of the ship, the closer you are to its center of gravity. So any rocking that it's doing is going to feel a lot worse on the outsides than it is in the middle. And if that's an issue for you, you definitely got to try the interior cabin. And there's another factor that can not only keep seasickness at bay, but can keep you more comfortable in your cabin. If I've even made you think a little bit about your cabin choice so far, make sure you subscribe to our channel. I find it difficult to sleep in a warm cabin. So the first thing I do when I get on a cruise is check that air conditioner and make sure it's cooling down properly. I've been on many cruises, and the only cabins I can remember where I had a problem with the cooling was balcony cabins. Interior cabins never had an issue. Now that doesn't mean somebody won't, but all of the extra elements going into a balcony cabin can keep it a little bit warmer. And if that air conditioner isn't strong enough, it might not keep up. So you've got the sun coming in. Even when you close the blinds, which helps, it might not help completely, and you might not always remember to do that. And then sometimes people leave the door open, and that lets out the cool air and makes it hard for the air conditioning to work properly. You will probably find that you have more control over the temperature in your cabin if you book an interior room versus a balcony. Now, I said there was one reason that I would book a balcony cabin directly, and that is if you're going on a scenic cruise, like one in Alaska, for example, because the beautiful scenery you're going to be sailing by for most of the cruise is definitely worth having that balcony so that you can even just lay in bed and watch the glaciers go by. You can have breakfast out there with the natural environment. It's not just open ocean. And there are other scenic cruises where this would definitely be worth it. But I also thought of a couple other reasons you might want to book a balcony and not risk not having that. And this could be if you're on, say, a special cruise for an anniversary or a honeymoon. Because in that case, if you're going to be spending more time just in your room and you just want to be together with your significant other, having that balcony comes in handy because you can actually just sit out there together and you're away from everybody else. So there are many nice features about it. And if you're going on a cruise for those reasons, definitely splurge and book the balcony. And another reason I thought of is if you're traveling with small kids who need nap time. Because if you have small children that you can't leave in the room by themselves and they need to go and take a nap, and you're stuck in there for hours during the middle of the day, it will be nice to have a balcony to get out there and relax while they're sleeping. Now let's get the debate started. I want to know if you're on Team Balcony or Team Interior Cabin. Put your preference in the comments below. Whichever cabin you choose, the best cabin is the one that gets you on the ship because that's where the party starts. And if you think cruise lines are overpricing their balcony cabins, you will not believe some of the ripoffs they try to get you with on board. I'll tell you all about those right here.